What's up, everyone? Welcome to Brews and Board Games, and it is review time. We are taking a look at Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor. This is a 1 to 4 player 4X cooperative game by Nemesis Games set in this fantasy world. We are going to be taking on the role of a faction leading an uprising against the remnants of the Empire, as well as the Chaos Horde that is coming in from the icy waste. I'm not going to go through a full rules explanation, and I do have 2 playthroughs up on my channel, so if you are curious, I will link those in the description below, so please check those out if you want to know more. Now, the basic concept of this game is we are going to be getting more resources throughout. We are going to be building up our army and trying to take out both the Empire and the Chaos, spreading our havens across the board, getting more points along the way. This is a highly combative game, and we as the players are working together against both the Legion, the Empire, and the Chaos Horde. They themselves, the Empire and the Chaos, are also battling each other. So in the end, all players have to have more points than both the Empire and the Chaos at the end. If every player does, then you guys win the game. Now, I'm not going to go into a full rules explanation of the game. Like I mentioned earlier, I will put links in the description of playthroughs that I did. So if you want to know more, I do go into further rules explanations in those. Essentially, what's happening in the game is going to be made up of 4 different chapters. Those chapters are going to be made up of a number of phases. So for example, you are going to be laying out new quests and items, as well as druid cards, which are powerful abilities that you can take advantage of throughout the game. The event phase, which is going to be a one-time card that's revealed, which is a one-time effect for the chapter that you're currently playing, as well as it's going to tell you what new legions and hordes for the enemies are going to be placed out onto the board. The build phase, which you are going to draw new powerful feat cards for your faction, as well as this is where you're going to be able to put new units out onto the board. You're going to be able to pay resources to pick and choose which units come out. You're going to be able to build up some of your havens to make them a little bit stronger in battle and things of that nature. Then it's going to move on to the actions phase, and this is where you're going to have a certain amount of gems, 8 gems to be exact, and you are going to use these to pay for certain actions onto the board. And this is going to include things like moving around, building more of these havens. You are going to be able to battle, as well as move your hero around to explore, go on quests, and buy items. Then it's going to move on to the Nemesis phase. And the Nemesis phase, this is where the enemies are going to activate. Now, during this phase, each of the Empire's legions, these big purple units right here, as well as the Chaos Hordes, these yellow units right here, they are all going to activate. And each of these enemies are going to have a different objective. The legions are going to be trying to target the Uprising factions. They are going to be also placing down new garrisons throughout the board as well, trying to take over territories. The Chaos Hordes, these hordes are just basically free floating around the board throughout this icy waste. But eventually they will come into contact with either the legions, as well as some of your factions as well. And they're going to be leaving behind these curses, which are basically destroying the land in their wake. After they have activated, then it is going to go to the production phase. And this is essentially where we are going to get more resources for our factions. We're going to get more resources based on the tiles that we control, as well as the number of factions the number of havens that we have out onto the board. The more havens you have out, the more resources that you are going to get. After we have collected our resources, it is then going to go to the scoring phase. The Empire is going to score based on the number of garrisons, legions, and number of factions in their graveyard. It is then going to go to the Chaos, which essentially is going to do the same thing, the number of hordes, curses, and factions in their graveyard. And then finally, it's going to come to us to score points. And we're going to get points based on the number of havens we have out onto the board, if we control any special tiles that grant us points. And then finally, we can actually pay with resources to buy extra points, which is usually going to happen on the last chapter. And that's essentially the game. Like I mentioned earlier, the object is for all players to have more points than the Empire as well as the Chaos. So first up, let's talk variety. There's a decent amount that you can do on your turn. And I do like how you have 8 gems, which essentially is your activations. So it feels like you have a little bit of breathing room that's going to allow you to perform a lot of these different actions. I know in a lot of games, some of them can feel like there's certain types of actions that you're going to perform a lot less in the game. Even though you might think that they're cool, you're not going to be able to take advantage because you might have to do something else during some of those turns. I feel like in Uprising, each of those actions that you can perform is equally important because you're going to want to get quests, which are powerful abilities, to maybe help get rid of some of these curses, get more points along the way. Items, which are powerful things that you're going to be able to take advantage of that can benefit battles, heroes, in quests, and things of that nature. You're going to have to decide whether you want to move your hero to this tile to explore it, and you're going to need to do that so you can have more locations to build your havens and get more resources, but also that's going to put more enemies on the board, most likely. You're also going to have to determine when and where you battle, because you are going to have to be constantly throwing away these troops to put pressure on the enemies. You cannot let them get out of hand, or it can spell certain doom for you. So you're going to be constantly throwing your troops in battle and then easily getting them back. But I really like the variety of all this. It really feels like there's a decent amount that you can do in your turn, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. You kind of have some clear goals sometimes, like I have to march into this location and take out some of these enemies to gain maybe some easy points, but also the curses are getting too out of hand, so let's go on a quest that's going to allow us to remove 1 or 2 of those curses. It's really interesting decisions, and I really like the variety that it offers. Next up, let's talk combat. I really like the combat system in this game, and there is a lot of combat. Like I was just mentioning, you are going to be constantly throwing your troops into battles. You're going to be losing your troops a lot, but you're going to be getting those back and putting those out onto the board a lot. So the game really praises a lot of combat. So if you like that sort of thing, this game has a lot of that, and I like that a lot. The game does use a dice combat system. Each of your troops that you have in the battle is going to have a certain colored dice that they are going to roll for that, as well as the enemy. And essentially what's happening is, right when you guys get into battle, think of it as there's going to be 1 round of archery, right? The army is going to meet on the battlefield, and both sides are going to be shooting their arrows at each other. After that is over, then the armies think about they're running after each other and they're going to clash in the middle, right? And there's going to be back and forth clashes until one side is victorious. The other side will be completely eradicated. And what's going to happen is both you, if you're battling one of the AI, both you and the enemy are going to be rolling dice at the same time. There's going to be hits that are rolled, shields, blanks, or lightning bolts. And each of these is going to do a different thing. But essentially, the hits are just going to take out an opposing unit. The shields are going to block those hits, and lightning bolts can be used for special abilities during battle. And blanks are essentially just misses. So you're going to be constantly going back and forth again until an enemy is defeated. But I really like this system because it is very fast. You can just get into a battle and it can be over very quickly. So because there's a lot of battles in here, you don't want each individual battle to take a long time. And it does not here. It is very straightforward, easy to understand, and you really start to get a grasp after like the second or third battle of how it works. Really like the combat system. And again, I like just how much combat is in the game. Really cool. So if you're looking for a 4X game that really praises a lot of combat, this is it. Moving forward, let's talk the components. An absolute amazing design. Production quality is off the charts. Just look at some of these standees. Fantastic. The artwork on them is incredible, as well as I really like the color scheme that they have going. There is going to be a lot of standees on this board, as you can see. You are going to want to see where your units are and where each individual unit is fairly easily because it's going to get too crowded. And with this game, you can see. I can easily distinguish there's a garrison here. This is my allies faction over here. We have some curse with some skeletons. It's easily distinguishable on the board. As well as the board itself. The layout is honestly superb. I love the design. This wooden look that it has, just very unique, as well as these keys here that basically tell you how many dice and what color the skeletons are rolling, as well as the garrisons, as well as the different terrain types in this game. It's laid out very well, and it's on both sides, so if you have friends sitting on the opposite side of the table, they can tell what each thing does as well. The artwork on the cards, fantastic. Even the card quality of these, it's some finish on there. I don't know exactly what it is, but it is a good high quality card. I also do want to point your direction over to this chapter track. This, in my opinion, is something that more board games should have. This chapter track easily tells you what to do in the different phases of the chapters. This is especially helpful if you're like me, who can kind of get lost in some of these turns, planning out and making moves, and then I can kind of forget where I am and where I left off. I can easily look back over at this chapter track and tell where I currently am. As well as for new players, this really helped me to learn the game quickly, because you can look over and it breaks it down fairly simple. Reveal one druid card, easy. Flip one of these over, it'd be face down, flip it over, go to the next one. Flip all your face down cards back face up. So if you have any in front of you that are face down, flip those up at this time. It goes through each thing individually like that. So if you're new starting out, you can go through that track and then you can easily tell where you are. I still use that even a few games in. It is just so helpful. Also, the 3D components. These garrisons here are these 3D tokens, and they are just absolutely fantastic. They have 3 layers right here, and you can build these up to make a 3-level garrison. It just looks so cool out on the table. I can't stress enough just how much the components are, how fantastic they are. You even have for your havens, these are 3D tokens as well, but you can build these walls and towers that look like walls and towers just around your havens. Just a cool little touch to make the game pop out just a little bit more. Next up, let's talk the dice. You're going to be rolling a lot of dice in this game. I'm a huge fan of dice. And these dice are nice quality. They are engraved. These are not stickers. And I believe there's 5 dice for each color that come in the game. So you have plenty of dice to go around. Also, the game comes with an insert. And these inserts are pretty good. You can see this is the red faction right here, and it's on there pretty tight. And you can see all the standees are in there. There's some cards as well as the score tracker token, as well as the havens. Everything is laid out in here very nicely. It's easy to just open up the box, take out some trays, and set it up onto the table. And if any of you know, I am a huge fan of having some sort of insert or a way to reduce the time to set up onto the table. Again, there's some games that I just don't get out as much because it takes so long to set up on the table. These inserts certainly help. Overall, production quality is off the charts. This is an absolutely beautiful game when it's set out on the table, and I just love these kind of tokens. I like to upgrade some of my games anyways, and this you do not need to. It is just fantastic. I also love the cooperative aspect. The game can be kind of difficult, at least when you're just starting out, right? Give it a few plays, you'll start to have some things click. But you are going to have to both fight the Horde, the Chaos Horde, and the Empire. And that's going to be a little difficult. But I love the ability of working together to try to do that. You're going to have different cards and abilities that are going to benefit your ally. And it's really cool to play some of those where you can potentially help your fellow faction to get out of some sort of hole or help them in combat. It's a lot of fun. I think the balance of helping out your teammate as well as working on your own faction, I think it strikes a very good balance. It's a lot of fun just having another ally onto the board and knowing that they're across the pond basically doing the same thing as you, and you both have this same objective of defeating both of them. And you can really plan out your turns of, okay, let's have this faction go take out some of these guys because the chaos is getting a little out of hand in this area, right? Or, you know, and at the same time, I'm going to go after some of these garrisons because the Legion or the Empire, they're getting a little out of hand here as well. So I need to reduce some of that. Very cool stuff. I really enjoy this whole cooperative aspect. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier to get some other people to join in knowing that it is cooperative and you guys are working together. And I can see there being a lot of table talk here. Everybody planning to come to the same goal. I really like that. And next up, let's talk the difficulty. This can be a hard game. And you can watch both of the playthroughs that I did. I didn't win either one of them. And I haven't won a single game of this yet, even off camera. But the reason why I'm putting it under positive is because each time I play this game, it's getting closer. In the first playthrough that I did, I got absolutely smashed. But then each time after that, it's getting closer and closer. So while hard, it feels like the wins are within reach. And I really like that. I play a lot of games where I don't win. I have a bunch of playthroughs with multiple games where I lose. It happens, right? And even some of these brutal games, I enjoy that journey. As long as the game is fun and it does present a small light at the end of the tunnel, there is that chance of winning, and that journey is amazing, then I tend to like the game a lot. And this is one of those. While it's hard, there's a lot of cool things going on. And I do feel like, hey, I'm starting to see where I go, okay, the chaos is about to get a little out of hand. Let's move into there. I'm starting to understand future rounds that are going to happen, right? So I can more easily prepare for those and take the right actions. So again, while hard, as long as you're putting in a little bit more time into the game, you're starting to understand more of that stuff. That challenge is actually a positive, because when you finally beat the game, it is going to feel like such an accomplishment. And I love that. I love the journey along the way. Next, let's move on to some things that I think might be able to be improved. I did point out the insert in the component section for the positive, and I do think the insert is very good. With the exception of some of them. Now, the inserts for the individual factions, very good. These lids, they snap on very nicely. Everything is organized in a very good fashion. And that's for all the character inserts, as well as these two for the resources. I actually use one of them for skeletons, walls, and towers. But these are very good as well. These snap on very good, and they feel very secure. It seems to be when you get to the bigger trays, the lids just don't seem to stay on. Like I have this here, and I don't know if this is just mine or if this is just how it is, or if it's how it's meant to be. But these don't snap on at all. This just kind of lays on here. So again, I don't know if mine, if it is supposed to snap on and mine don't. But if you're going to turn your game sideways, I guess if you have things on top, this won't be a problem. But I would have liked to see this maybe snap on a little bit more. I would have felt a little bit better about that. And that's kind of how the other one is as well. It just feels like it kind of, dropping stuff. It just feels like it kind of rests on there a little bit. And I would have liked to see that a little bit more secure. The next thing is maybe just a little bit more variety in the amount of enemies that you fight. You are going to get a decent amount of Horde and Legion cards, and you are going to use 5 each game. But it does seem like you might have been able to use maybe 3, 4, 5 more, just for a little bit extra variety. Now, I'm talking about the core box. The expansions are going to add a little bit more, which is nice. But maybe just in the core box, I would have probably liked to see just a little bit more of the monsters. Because you're going to see the same monsters kind of each game. And while okay, and you're going to see those maybe at different points in the game, you are going to see, for the most part, the same ones. And that also goes for the quests and event cards. I would have liked to see just a little bit more extra in those stacks, because believe it or not, I think in both of my playthroughs, I went through almost the entire stack of the quest cards. And then the only other thing, and I don't even know how this would be improved, and honestly, I love the current design of it. It's just what can happen sometimes is as you're playing, some things can get knocked over, like maybe the top of this garrison, because it's just sitting on there. But overall, I love it. And, this is just a maybe what to watch out for, but even so, I mean, it's very simple to just put that back on. But it's such a small thing, and it doesn't take anything away from the game. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get into my final thoughts. I think I mentioned earlier on that I've been enjoying this game, and boy, have I been enjoying this game. I think I played this the day after I got it. I did the playthrough. And when I was packing that game up, I wanted to play it again because I had such a good time, as I mentioned, on that journey, even though I lost, that journey of just doing the exploration, doing the combat, rolling the dice, going on the quest, gaining new items, seeing what the enemies were going to do. That whole journey was so fun. I wanted to play it again. So that weekend, I did. I set it back up. I was thinking about the game. I was like, I'm going to try to do this. I was already planning on doing things differently in that game because it was exciting. And I still have that same feeling. Having it set up right now, it makes me want to play the game again. It's so fun. And honestly, like I said before, the different things that you can do on your turn, there's a lot of cool different things. And again, some of those other games where there's some actions that you don't take as much, I feel like you're doing a little bit of everything in this game, and it's a lot of fun. I was honestly surprised in my playthroughs about the quests. I thought the quests were basically just going to be this thing that, hey, if you ever want to, they're there, right? It's going to be this small thing. But I find myself going on a lot of quests, and they're a lot of fun. You have to get those successes, like I said, and you're going to roll some dice based on your character's stats, and you can get these different values, which might give you even a little bit more benefits or bonuses if you roll those. And if you get the success, you solve the quest and you get a benefit. And if you fail, it does something good for the enemy. So I've been doing a lot of quests, and that's been a lot of fun. Combat is straightforward. You get into combat, you already kind of know what dice you're going to be rolling, because it's also cool because on your standees, it tells you what type of dice that they are going to roll. You get into combat, you're going to roll your dice, and you just keep going back and forth until somebody is eliminated. You can get some good rolls, you can get some bad rolls. But it's so straightforward and smooth that you're just like, okay, let's get into battle. Okay, there's going to be a battle here, there's a battle here. There's a lot of combat, and I like combat stuff. So there is a lot of combat in this game. The factions are unique too. Each faction has a double-sided card, so with each faction there's two different heroes that you can play, and those heroes are a little bit different. They're going to have different stats of the dice you're going to roll for the quests, and each of those are going to have a different feat deck, and these feat decks are powerful abilities that are unique to those leaders. I like the different factions. I haven't played with any of the expansion factions in the Arch Nemesis, but they look really cool as well. I have played as all four in the core game, and very cool stuff. And again, I love the components. The artwork is top notch. I am so glad this is a standee game and not a miniatures game, because you have a limited amount of space. And even though these tiles are fairly big, you can only have a max of 5 units, not including your hero, in a tile at a time. So the tiles can get kind of congested. I can't even imagine what minis would have looked like in this. So standees are a perfect alternative to this. And they just look great. They honestly look so good with the color scheme and everything like that. I love the 3D components of the garrisons, the havens with the walls and the towers. I love the board design. It looks so cool with this wooden design, and especially with the chapter track. Like I already mentioned before, that is such a user-friendly thing that I would like to see more in board games. The rule book is fantastic. It's a small form factor. There's a lot of examples. Everything is laid out very nicely. You read the rule book and you feel like you know the game. This isn't a game that I had to look up a lot on BGG as well. There's not a lot of nuanced situations that, at least that I found. But even if there are, Nemesis Games, the designer, they are on the forums very actively. So if you have any kind of questions, they'll be on there. Chances are you'll get an answer within a short amount of time. Very, very passionate company, and you can really feel their love for this game. Fantastic. I also really, like I said, the cooperative aspect. I think that's just a lot of fun, right? I can get some buddies together and we can say, look, let's take on Uprising, right? Let's fight these factions. And I think they're going to have a fantastic time. It's going to be a lot of table talk. And I love the idea of us all working together with our own individual factions, each with our own unique powers, and trying to take on both of these guys and trying to pin them against each other. Just a fun thing, and also knowing that we're going to have to help each other out because everybody has to have more points than the enemies. I love that. I really love that. And like I was mentioning before, this is a game that praises combat. I know I already kind of touched on combat in the overall thoughts, but you're going to have to constantly be throwing your units out at the enemy factions. They're going to go into the graveyards of the enemy factions. You will get those back, but this isn't a game where you can just sit back and build up, because then that's what they're going to do. And they can build up faster than you can. So you have to constantly be attacking, but you have to do it smartly. So all the decisions throughout the game, because it's relatively straightforward to learn and it's smooth, you can focus a lot of your time on just that decision making. And those decisions are awesome. I really enjoy this game. I look forward to this game every time I play it. I'm looking forward to busting out the Arch Nemesis expansion and the new Titans of the First Age expansion, which is coming up. Very excited for all that stuff. I'm excited about the new factions. I'm excited about the new enemies that are going to be coming from this. I'm just overall, anytime I bust this game out to play, I'm excited. And I want to do a little bit better, and that's what's happening. The more I play, the better I'm getting at it. And I really look forward to each time I play. Overall, I would rate this a 9 out of 10. Absolutely adore this game. And I can see this game rising even more, right? It's just a overall fantastic production, fantastic game. I love the mechanics, and I look forward to it every time. 9 out of 10, and definitely I can see it rising in the future. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I will try to help you out. And if you have any thoughts about the game, please let me know in the comments. I respond to everybody. So I want to thank you guys for watching. And until next time, grab some brews, play some games. I'll catch you on the next one. All right, peace.